Okay, we ended on page 71 of the course reader last week, where did um, we spoke a bit about the aspect of Dominus Litis, and in terms of the various proceedings, which parties are regarded as Dominus Litis. We spoke about the burden of proof. Um, we spoke about the aspect of you alleges must prove, meaning the burden of proof is always on the party that is Dominus Litis. Okay. We also um, spoke about the aspect of the standard of proof, and we spoke about the aspect that in civil proceedings, the um, standard of proof is proof on a balance of probabilities. We came to criminal proceedings, and we spoke about the standard of proof there, which is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And I asked you guys to do a comparison for me on the difference between the standard civil matters compared to that of the standard of proof in criminal matters. So now, before we continue this discussion for tonight, I want to hear from you guys what that difference is. So I would like, if it is possible, for you to speak to me or to engage with me. So you can put up your hand and then unmute your mic and speak to me. Those who don't want to speak, you're welcome then to put your comments into the chat function. So before we continue with this, I want to say good evening to Mr. Lucas Kopi from UNISA, who's providing me with support tonight. Thank you, Lucas. Lucas, before I start, are there any announcements from your side? Okay, thank you, Lucas. So I'll continue. Okay, before I start, also, any comments? Good evening, Nadia. Good evening, Palisa. Good evening, Queen. Good evening, Perez. Good evening, Michelle. Good evening, Olusola. Good evening, Denzel. Okay, before I then start, are there any comments or questions from your side on last week's discussion? If the answer is no, I would like you to engage with me on my current question, the difference between the standard of proof in civil matters versus the standard of proof in criminal matters. Any volunteers, or must I ask people? Any volunteers? Must I choose the volunteers myself? I'll give you a minute to get your notes, to um, start engaging with me. I'll give you a minute. Nadia, you giving me something that we discussed last week. Okay. My question to you guys is, give me the difference between the two standards of proof. Give me the difference between on a balance of probabilities versus proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the discussion I want to start with tonight. That is the discussion I want to start with tonight. Okay, so give me that, please. I'll give you a minute. No one's hands are up. So do you guys want me to call on volunteers? Okay. Michelle. Michelle, okay, your answer is so-so. Okay. If this is an answer out of 4, I give you 1.5. Okay. Um, okay. Going to put some homework into the chat function for you. Okay, I'm putting a case in there for you. But Lisa, no, that answer is way off base. I want you to take note of this case, S versus Umbombela, and a movie. I want you to access this movie, watch this movie. It's called The movie is called A Reasonable Man. So I want you firstly to read S versus Umbombela and then watch the movie called A Reasonable Man. It's a South African movie. And then I will continue this discussion next week. Okay, so I'm parking this question. I'll continue this discussion next week. But prior to you doing this, I want you to read S versus Mbombela. Okay, it's a very old case. And in addition to that, I want you to watch the movie called A Reasonable Man. Okay, I'm going to leave it there and then I want to continue tonight's discussion. Okay, and for tonight's discussion, I want us to go to page 75 and at study unit 5. Okay, page 75, and we're looking at study unit 5. Okay. Page 75, study unit 5. Okay. Students like Michelle, Nadia, Palisa. Okay, you all gave comments, Michelle, again. We will look at your comments next week after you've read S versus Umbombela, and after you after you've watched A Reasonable Man. Okay. Paris, are you having sound problems? Can everybody hear me? Just put in a yes or no. Paris, are you experiencing sound problems? Paris, I think it's from your side. Okay. So everyone can hear me except for Paris. So let us go then to Learning Unit 5, and this is on page 75. And the purpose of this unit is, if you look at the outcomes, firstly, we want to list the key role players in the South African legal system. We're going to classify the various role players in the South African legal system, and we're going to describe the various roles and functions, okay, of the different offices of the court, as well as other functionaries within the legal system. And we will also understand how the various players function within our court structure. Okay, so the introduction at paragraph 5.1, students, tells you that as a future participant or a future role player in the South African legal system, you must familiarize yourself with how you will operate within that system. You need to know who the various role players are, and yes, okay. So if we look at the South African legal system, okay, we know that after and prior to 1994, okay, we had a system called a split profession. Okay, in terms of the profession, students, the 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 participants in that system, okay, they were part of a split legal system. Okay, so in terms of a split legal system, okay, who can explain that concept to me? Anyone? Okay. In terms of a split legal system, is there anyone in the group that can explain that concept to me? Okay. What was a split? Okay, Michelle, there were laws governing bodies regulating. Okay, Michelle, what were those laws? Alisa, no. Okay, Michelle is on the right track. Michelle is on the right track. Denzel, no, they weren't split necessarily in the way they appeared in court. They were split in terms of the profession, and Michelle is on the right track because she's saying, in terms of the split legal profession, there were two bodies regulating the attorney's profession as well as the advocate's profession. Okay. Michelle, what were those bodies called? Okay. The bodies which regulated each profession, what were they called? Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? No one else? Okay, Perez is saying that the Law Society of South Africa, okay, Perez, one wrong, one right. Okay, Lucas. So Lucas is on the right track. Lucas, the regulating body that um, oversaw or regulated the the profession of advocates was known as the Bar Council. It's known as the Bar Council, and the regulating body who regulated the profession for attorneys were the Law Society of South Africa. Okay, and the enabling legislation for attorneys, as Michelle stated, is the Attorneys Act, and the empowering legislation for the advocates profession was the Advocates Act. Okay, but there was a need to transform the legal profession. Okay, and you are going to write a page for me. Okay, you can submit it to me. You are going to write a page for me I have so much marking to do over this weekend. I'm gonna do everything over the weekend. You can write a page for me on why it was necessary for the legal profession to be transformed. Currently, the legal profession is being regulated by a single piece of legislation known as the Legal Practice Act. Okay, Legal Practice Act um, 28 of 2014. Okay, and the Legal Practice Act provides for one regulating body known as the Legal Practice Council. Okay, the regulating body currently is known as the Legal Practice Council. Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Any questions? Okay. Um, there's no questions. Let's continue. I want all of us to go to the table on page 77, and our discussion tonight is going to revolve around the overview of the legal actors in the South African legal system. Okay. Now, in terms of those actors, okay, I want us to look at the first two columns. Okay. Now, the first column states who the users are of the legal system in South Africa. It states who the users are in the legal system, and it says there we're looking at clients, we're looking at criminal accused, and we're looking at civil parties. Okay? We're looking at clients, we're looking at criminal accused, and we're looking at civil parties. Um, to the word clients, who else can we add or broaden the word clients with? Students? Students, who else can we add to the word clients, or how can we broaden that word? Anyone? Anyone? How can we broaden the word clients to include which body? Anyone? How can we broaden the word clients to include which body? How can we broaden the word clients to include which party students? Someone gave an answer now, juristic entity. Which juristic entity? Not companies. Companies will fall under civil parties. Whereas a company will fall under civil parties. Will fall under civil parties. Um, Michelle, very good. Government. Okay, Michelle, good answer. That's the answer I was looking for, is government. Students, if you notice now, okay, there's lots of litigation, especially civil litigation, where government is a party to proceedings. So government has a huge legal bill. Okay, so if we look at ordinary citizens, they include clients, which can also include government, can include criminal accused, and it can include civil parties. If we look at the private practitioners in the South African legal system, it, um, it lists them. The first one is a paralegal. Okay, so a paralegal, firstly, is a person who has a qualification in law, but it's not equivalent, or it can't be compared to a formal legal qualification such as the LLB. Okay, it is a very basic understanding of certain aspects of the law, namely basic understanding of family law, maintenance, some aspects of contract law. Okay, paralegals are not lawyers, they are not even regarded as a legal practitioner. Um, they don't even have standing in court. Okay, so the first proper legal practitioner is an attorney. Okay, and an attorney we can classify as a general practitioner of the law. Okay, the basic qualification for the attorney is an LLB degree. Now, students, before I continue with this discussion, whom of you can you just indicate, those of you who are online with me tonight, can you just indicate how many of you are doing the LLB degree? Okay, can you just indicate for me how many of you are LLB students? I know there are other students who not necessarily doing the LLB, but I want to see who the LLB students are. Um, just check. So Michelle is doing LLB, Paris is doing LLB, Denzel is doing LLB, Queen is doing LLB, Belisa. Okay. So guys, can you tell me what makes the LLB different from a normal undergrad degree? What makes the LLB different from a normal undergrad degree? Anyone? Balisa, we know it takes 4 years to complete, but what makes it different from another degree? No one is telling me. No. Michelle, um, people, the LLB is regarded as an honors degree, people. The LLB is regarded as an honors degree. So once you graduate with an LLB, you graduate with an honors degree, meaning LLB students can then go over to LLM directly. Okay, so other disciplines such as BA, such as science, etc., they first have to do honors, but we can go, you guys can go straight over to masters. This is also one reason why this degree is so difficult. Okay, students, so you are actually busy with your honors degree. Okay? So the requirement for an attorney is an LLB degree, and an attorney must do articles for a minimum of 2 years. Okay, and after that, write their board exams only once they Queen, you tell me you didn't know you're busy with an honors degree. Oh wow. Okay. Um, okay, we learn something new every day, Nadia. Okay. So only once an attorney completes their articles, they are known as a CA or an article clerk for the first 2 years of their career, meaning they are assigned an experienced admitted attorney, and that attorney is regarded as the principal. So they learn the practical aspect of practicing law during their articles of clerkship, okay, which is normally 2 years. And then um, and then they will write their admission exams, and once they are done writing their admissions exams and they pass them, then they can be admitted as attorneys. Okay. A notary. Any questions for me so far on attorneys? Any questions for me so far on attorneys? Any questions so far? No. Okay, I'll continue to the next legal practitioner who is a notary. Okay, so a notary is an admitted attorney, firstly, and the attorney does an additional exam, which is called the notary exam. And the function of a notary is to deal with in the drafting or the drawing up of specialized contracts, such as anti-nuptial agreements, etc. Okay, so a notary deals in the drafting of specialized contracts, but the notary is also an admitted attorney, and he or she does an additional exam. The conveyancer is also an admitted attorney who does an additional exam called the conveyancing exam, and a conveyancer deals in the transfer of immovable property. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, if there's no questions, we go over to advocates. Okay, the minimum requirement for an advocate is also an LLB degree. An advocate does 1 year of pupillage under an experienced advocate, which is known as your master. Remember, during the pupillage period, an advocate does not earn any income. Okay, so the year you do your pupillage, you earn no income. You also have to write your board exams, and once you are successful, you can be admitted as an advocate of the High Court. Okay, advocates, very, very importantly, have automatic right of appearance in all courts. Okay, attorneys, however, only have automatic right of appearance in our lower courts. Okay, the law provides that an attorney can bring application for right of appearance in the High Court. Okay, so an attorney can apply for right of appearance in the High Court. This can only happen 3 years after his or her admission. Okay, normally attorneys brief advocates. Okay, advocates don't normally deal with the public directly. I think the Legal Practice Act has brought some changes to that. You need to familiarize yourself with that. Okay, advocates are also referred to as counsel. Okay, any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay, so no questions. Okay, question to you guys. Who's going to be attorneys one day and who's going to be advocates? Michelle, no. Attorneys don't need a fidelity fund certificate. Not as far as I know. Sorry, advocates don't need a fidelity fund certificate. Okay. Yumna, you need to switch your mic off, please. Thank you. Any other questions for me? Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Then we go to column number 3. Okay. We go to column number 3 that lists public legal practitioners. Okay? So the first public legal practitioner is the legal practitioner employed by the National Prosecuting Authority, and that is the prosecutor. Okay, the prosecutor um, is the lawyer appointed by the state to prosecute criminal matters. So the prosecutor is employed by a public body or an organ of state known as the National Prosecuting Authority. So the only requirement is an LLB. He or she does not have to do articles or pupillage, but they will be put through the aspirant prosecutors program at the NPA. And once they're successful and appointed as a prosecutor, the prosecutor will get a certificate to appear in court. But this certificate only allows the prosecutor to appear in criminal matters. Okay. The next public practitioner is the state attorney. Okay. Now we all know that the state can also be a party to civil proceedings. The state can also be a party to civil proceedings, and this basically means that I'm going to give you an example now, students. I'm going to give you an example now. Okay. Students, just give me 1 second quickly, please. I have a phone call quickly. Just give me. Okay, students, I'm back, and I was at the function of the state attorney. So I'm going to give you an example. We take a public hospital. Let's take a public hospital in Cape Town, Tygerberg Hospital. Okay, David goes to Tygerberg to have his appendix taken out. This doctor employed by the state, the Department of Health, does the operation, but as the operation is done, when David is stitched up, one of the staff members in the operating theatre negligently leaves a cotton swab inside David. Okay, the wound becomes septic, the wound becomes infected, and David needs to rush back to hospital again to have another operation. This is negligence. So what does David do? He sues the Department of Health. Okay, so when government or any organ of state is involved in civil litigation, okay, thus the attorneys or the lawyers appearing on behalf of government is known as the state attorney. So there's a government office dedicated to that. It's known as the Office of the State Attorney. And this office is manned by admitted attorneys, but all of the attorneys are in the employ of government, and they specialize in litigation where the state is a party to civil litigation. Okay, that's the state attorney. And then the state advocate is an admitted advocate who similarly, like the state attorney, deals in high court appearances or high court litigation for government in criminal and civil matters. Okay, the state advocate. Okay, the state legal advisor. The state legal advisor is either an admitted advocate or an admitted attorney in the employ of the state. And this is also a separate government office known as the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor. And this office is specifically dedicated to the drafting of new legislation. Okay, remember, in terms of our separation of powers, okay, our legislature is responsible for the enactment of legislation. But the government body or the legal body who drafts that legislation is known as the Office of the Chief Law Advisor. They are state legal advisors. Okay? State legal advisors also have another function where they provide organs of state with legal advice. Okay, they provide organs of state with legal advice, and the portfolio of a state legal advisor, that was one of my previous portfolios. And here I was employed by the Department of Justice. I was a state legal advisor for the Department of Justice. Okay. So we're looking at protectors. Okay. We're looking at protectors, and the first protector we're looking at is the public defenders. Okay. So a public defender is that lawyer who is appointed at state cost to an accused person in a criminal matter who cannot afford a lawyer. Okay, a public defender is normally employed by a statutory body called Legal Aid South Africa. Okay, so Legal Aid South Africa is state funded. It operates independently, but it's regarded as a firm of lawyers that is dedicated to providing legal services to the poor and indigent, especially in the arena of criminal defense. So if you are charged and accused with a crime and you cannot afford a lawyer, you could access the services of legal aid. Okay? And we have another protector, which is known as the public protector. That is a Chapter 9 institution. Okay, and I'm sure all of you know who the public protector is. The head of the public protector's office and the employees in there are also qualified legal personnel. Okay, our previous public protector was an admitted advocate, Advocate Tuli Madonsela. Our current public protector is Advocate Pusisiwe Mkwebane, who's also an admitted advocate. Okay, and then ombudsman. We have the health ombudsman, we have the insurance ombudsman, we have the banking ombudsman, etc. So the office of the ombudsman is an independent body which is state funded, which regulates certain industries. Okay, in terms of protecting public interest. Okay, And the head of this body, known as an ombudsman, is also a qualified lawyer. Okay? Now let's look at presiding officers. Okay, presiding officers are those officers who are in charge of deciding or adjudicating legal disputes. The first judicial officer or presiding officer is a judge. A judge is a presiding officer that presides over matters in superior courts. Okay, superior courts are our high courts in all of our provinces, our Supreme Court of Appeal, as well as our Constitutional Court. Then we get our specialized high courts, who's also the presiding officer is also a judge. Here we're looking at our Land Claims Court, our Labor Court, our Labor Appeal Court, etc. Okay, magistrates. Okay, and sorry, let me go back to a judge. A judge, when you address a judge in court, when the judge is a male, you address the judge as what? When the judge is a male, let me pose the question to you. The judge is a male. How do you address the judge in court? Students, the judge is a male. How do you address the judge in court? Anyone? Okay, Lucas, my lord, that's correct. And if the judge is female, how do you address the judge? The judge is female. How do you address a judge? Anyone? The judge is female. How do you address the judge? Odiwole, you correct. We address the judge as my lady. Okay. Now, students, if we go to magistrates, these are the presiding officers in our lower courts, and our lower courts are known as magistrates courts, and our lower courts is divided into district and regional courts, and the presiding officers are known as magistrates. What do you refer a magistrate to in court? When you address a magistrate, how do you address a magistrate? Anyone? Anyone? You address a magistrate. How do you address a magistrate? Michelle, no, not your honor. That's American TV. Okay. How do you address a magistrate? How do you address a magistrate? Yumna, correct, your worship. Okay, your worship. Okay, please be mindful that a judge, on the recommendation of the Judicial Services Commission, is appointed by the president. Okay? A magistrate, on recommendation by the Magistrates Commission, is appointed by the Minister of Justice. Okay? Now, if you look at small claims court commissioners, okay, remember, when you preside as a small claims court commissioner, you are the presiding officer in the small claims court, okay? And you are known as the small claims court commissioner. a small claims court commissioner is appointed when I worked at the Department of Justice as a legal advisor. That was one of my functions in the Western Cape. I was responsible for small claims court and the appointment of small claims court commissioners, and the commissioner of the small claims court is appointed by the Deputy Minister of Justice. Okay, so there's no remuneration in doing this. They are the commissioners of the small claims court, and these are advocates or attorneys with at least 5 years post-admission experience. Okay, traditional leaders are not necessarily legal professionals. They are assisted by legal advisors. Okay, we spoke about presiding officers in special courts. I've mentioned those special courts, such as the someone is interfering. I don't know who that person is, but can you switch your mic off? Where was I? Presiding officers in special courts. Okay, we get our commercial crimes court also, who's got a regional court jurisdiction. Okay, and that's presided over by a magistrate. Okay, so let's look at the court officials and their related roles. Okay, the master of the High Court is also a qualified lawyer or an admitted advocate, and the master of the High Court is the head of the office that deals with the administration of deceased estates, the appointing of trustees and curators, and that's the function of the master. Okay. Then, if we look at the next functionary, we're looking at the registrar of the High Court, and the registrar of the High Court is also a qualified legal professional, and these are known as court officials who provide support, a supportive role to the judiciary or to our courts to ensure the effective administration of justice. Okay, and one of these officials is the Registrar of the High Court. Okay, so this official is appointed for every High Court, and the office of the Registrar of the High Court is responsible for the administration of the court, meaning it involves the receiving and keeping of important information in respect of High Court matters. So it's the receiving of pleadings, the issuing of summonses, the management of court files, and compilation of the court roll. The registrar also has a quasi-judicial function where he or she considers and issues orders in certain matters in terms of the rules of court. Those of you who are not aware of it, but currently I am the registrar at the Western Cape High Court. Okay, so my current portfolio is that of registrar of the High Court. Okay, and then we look at the clerk of the court. The clerk of the court is also a legal professional who does a similar function as the Registrar of the High Court, but only in the Magistrates Court. Okay, and then we have our next court official, who is the family advocate. The family advocate is also a legal professional, holds an LLB, and is an admitted advocate. And the family advocate is employed by the Office of the Family Advocate, and this is the appointed lawyer who is, remember, the High Court is the upper guardian of all minor children. So the family advocate is the representative of the High Court when it comes to civil disputes relating to children. These disputes relate to contact and care issues, and the family advocate must assist the High Court in protecting the best interest of minor children when it comes to disputes. Okay, one of my first jobs in law, I think my first job in law was that of a family advocate. So now you know that my field of specialty is family and children's law, and my first job was that of a family advocate before I became a state legal advisor, and after that I became the registrar of the Western Cape High Court. So those were my three portfolios which I held in law for the past 10 years, aside from teaching law. Right? The sheriff of the High Court is not necessarily legally qualified. Okay? The sheriff of the High Court is not necessarily legally qualified, but in terms of the Sheriff's Act, okay, sheriff is a creature of statute, but in terms of the Sheriff's Act, the sheriff is the court-appointed official responsible for the serving of processes. Okay, so when summons must be served, okay, it must be served by the sheriff. When property must be attached, it must be done by the sheriff. Okay, and then also the police officer, not necessarily a qualified legal professional, but also known as an officer of the court and appointed to preserve law and order. Any questions for me so far, students? Any questions for me so far? Any questions?
Yeah, Advocate, it's Denzel. How are you?
I'm good, Denzel. How are you?
Good, man. I'm just going through all the role plays. It's actually quite interesting that the prosecutor, although having an LLB, doesn't have to be a qualified attorney or advocate. Yet
No,
they
they
are,
don't
a lot
have
of
to
the
be.
time, they are the first people to be a accused meets in a court. It's actually quite
Yes.
interesting.
Okay. Remember, that's the minimum requirement. They can, of course, be an admitted attorney or an admitted advocate, but they don't have to be. Okay.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
So
one of my
they
friends just
get.
got employed today. That's why it's interesting.
What are you saying, Denzel?
I said it's interesting because one of my family members' friends got appointed today at the NPA to start in November as a prosecutor.
Okay,
And she's only just completed as
congratulations.
well. Yeah.
To which court is
Uh,
that person
Cape Town.
appointed?
Cape Town.
Cape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any other questions or comments? Thank you, Denzel.
Advocate
Lucas
Queen here.
Kofi. Yes, Queen.
I just wanted to ask about Chief Justice Mogoeng. Where does he
Hmm.
fall? He falls under what? Is it? Where does he fall?
Okay. You know the three tiers of state or the three organs of state which government is divided into. Our legislature,
Mm-hmm.
our executive, and our
Mm-hmm.
third branch is our judiciary. So the
Yes.
head of the judiciary in our country, the head of all the courts, the head of the judiciary is the Chief Justice. That is
Oh.
Justice Mogoeng. So the Chief Justice is responsible for the third sphere of government, which is the judiciary.
Oh. Okay. Thank you,
Does that
Advocate.
make sense?
Yes. I was not a. I didn't know where he falls, so that's why I wanted to ask you.
Yes, okay, that is the head of the office of the Chief Justice. Okay,
Oh. All right. Thanks, Advocate.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, Lucas Kope, are you the court clerk? Are you referring to the clerk of the magistrates court? Okay, the clerk of the court of the lower court must also have an LLB. That's correct. Okay, they must have an LLB. They don't have to be an admitted attorney or an admitted advocate, but they must have an LLB. Okay, any other questions before I go over to other legal officers and legal functionaries? Okay, no other questions? Okay. Let me go over to other legal officers and functionaries. The Registrar of Deeds is that public office responsible for the registration and the safekeeping of title deeds of property. Okay, the Registrar of Deeds can be an admitted attorney or an admitted advocate. Okay, the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission. This is where intellectual property is registered as well as private companies and public companies registered. The head of this body is also a legal professional, a lawyer or an advocate. And then a commissioner of oaths. The first commissioner. So a commissioner of oaths is that person who is by law allowed to commission affidavits and also to verify and stamp documents as what does one call it? Where you where a copy of an original is certified. So a commissioner of oaths does that. Now, in terms of certain offices you hold, you are regarded as a commissioner of oaths ex officio. Ex officio means by operation of law or the specific office you hold. So, as an admitted advocate, as an admitted attorney, you are regarded as a commissioner of oaths. Um, the Registrar of the High Court is also regarded as a commission of oaths. The sheriff is also regarded as a commission of oaths, as well as the police officer. Okay, so in terms of the office you hold, you are regarded as a commission of oaths. Okay. Any questions? Michelle, so we could work as paralegals while finishing our degrees. Why would you want to be a paralegal if you're going to be a lawyer one day? Okay, please don't do that. Okay? Then can a priest and a postmaster commission documents? I think not a priest per se, but a marriage officer. Okay, a marriage officer is appointed in terms of empowering legislation. That's in terms of legislation by the Department of Home Affairs. Okay, so yes, a marriage officer is not necessarily a legally qualified person, but appointed in terms of legislation. Okay, and it's regarded as a legal functionary. Okay, because at the end of the day, a civil marriage is regarded as some kind of contract, okay, between parties. Okay, then we get other bodies who is also headed by either an advocate or an attorney. Okay, the South African Law Reform Commission, you can go read up on what that is. The South African Human Rights Commission, that is a Chapter 9 institution in terms of Chapter 9 of our Constitution. And the Chapter 9 institution is responsible for promoting and protecting our constitutional democracy. Okay, Nadia, you are referring to appointment as a commission of oaths in terms of legislation. Okay, the appointment of commission of oaths I spoke about was ex officio. You are talking about an appointment in terms of legislation where you need to meet certain criteria. Okay. So students, then we have two more Chapter 9 institutions, the Commission for the Promotion Protection of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities, as well as the Commission for Gender Equality. And then we have the last type of lawyer, which is the academics and jurists. Now, these are the legal commentators. They are legally qualified. Remember, your lecturers, I'm now referring to UNISA, our other universities such as WITS, UWC, UJ, all these universities, the lecturers in the law faculties are holders of LLB degrees, LLM degrees, and LLD degrees, PhDs in law. So they are necessarily not admitted attorneys or not admitted advocates, but they are regarded as academics. Okay, they teach the law. Okay. They teach the law. Okay, so part of me is academia and part of me is the practicing of law. So you guys in me have the best of both worlds. Okay, because I practice law on a daily basis and I teach it as well. Okay. Any questions so far, students? Any questions so far? Okay, if there's no questions, then you can read from page 77 up until page 85. Okay, and familiarize yourself with the content of this discussion. Then I'm going to check tomorrow. I was a bit busy at work today. I'm going to check tomorrow who has indicated that they want one-on-one sessions with me, and I'm also going to start commenting on the written work you've submitted to me. So the only homework I've given you is to go read S versus Umbombela, go watch the movie called A Reasonable Man, and also, again, you must be able to give me the distinction between the standards of proof relating to proof beyond a reasonable doubt and proof on a balance of probabilities. But before you do that, read S versus Umbombela and also watch the movie called A Reasonable Man. Okay, so before I conclude, our representative from UNISA, let me just see who's online. Adele or Lucas Kopi, are there any announcements or notices from your side? Okay, students, I've noticed that you are requested to put your student number into the chat function. And then Miss Adele Blacker has in the chat function put down the form you can download for one-on-one queries with me. Denzel, there's no attendance register. You just have to put in your student number, please. Okay, Denzel, no attendance register. You just have to put in your student number. Students, before I conclude for tonight, okay, Nadia, thanks for your student number. Ase Mashle, thanks for your student number. Students, any questions, any comments, any concerns before I log off tonight?
Owen, it's Denzel again.
Yes, Denzel.
That link for the one-on-one consultation, can it also be emailed to us separately? Because when we come off the team chat, I'm going to lose that.
I'm not sure how that works. So if I'm
me neither,
you,
yeah.
Okay, Denzel, if you look in the participants, okay, if you go look in the participants, you will see there's let me just give me a second. There's CNT TAT.
Yes.
It's Cape Town TAT. So CNT TAT is our administrator for all of this. So the email address is cnttat@unisa.ac.za. So email that address if you have trouble in downloading the link, or send me an email. You have my email address, owenadv@outlook.com. I will forward it to CNTTAT as well as Adele Blacker, and then somehow there will be assistance for you. Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns for me? Any other questions or concerns? Guys, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Paris. Thank you, Nadia. Guys, have a great evening. Study well, and then we will chat to each other on Saturday. Okay? Keep well, guys. Good evening.